Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Hopstart. And you're used to us being, kind of preachy advice giving about various jobs you can get in the job market. But today we've got a special episode for you because today it's not about you being an entrepreneur or you getting into this industry, that industry. We're going to tell you should study more because we've got two fantastic interviews from people from St. Andrews, and it's actually a really cool university. So stay tuned to find out how not only the historicity of St. Andrews, but how you can get in.
I'm Brad Mackay, Vice Principal, International Strategy and External Relations at the University of St. Andrews and Professor of Strategy in the Management School.
Hi Brad, welcome to Hopstart. Thank you for taking time out of, I'm sure, your very busy schedule in India to let us interview you. So I just wanted to, start off by, maybe you giving us a bit of a lesson for those of us in India who might not, know of St. Andrews, although St. Andrews is one of the oldest universities out there. So just a bit of a brief on, what St. Andrews is.
Well, thank you very much. It's a delight to be at Hopstart. So the University of St. Andrews is the third oldest university in the English-speaking world. So it was founded in 1413. Just after Oxford and Cambridge. It's located in St. Andrews, which is about an hour north of Edinburgh, on the east coast of Scotland. It's in a beautiful medieval city, and the university itself is about 9,200 students and about 2,500 staff with about 600 faculty. It's a hugely international university, so about 46% of our students come from outside the United Kingdom, and between staff and students we have about 140 countries represented in our community. So even though it's a beautiful but relatively small medieval city up in the northeast of Scotland, it is one of the most cosmopolitan places that you'll find.
Okay, that's interesting because in the last maybe 20 years, and when I was doing research about St. Andrews, I saw that a lot of your students are from international backgrounds outside the UK. So this trend that you're seeing of more international students coming to your university, has that always been like the ethos of it, or is that something that you've moved towards and seen now being more successful?
St. Andrews has always had, in terms of St. Andrews itself, it's always had links all over the world. We've seen certainly a swing towards more international students looking to come and study with us. And the university has expanded, not a huge amount, but slightly over the past 15 years. And that's been generally with students coming from all over the world. More broadly, I think in higher education, there is without question a swing towards more students wanting to have international experiences, whether it's short experiences in countries that are not from which they come, or whether it's actually doing a degree or a longer program at institutions abroad.
So we see more and more currently that higher education is no longer just a pipe dream for people. It's almost a necessity. Like having a master's now, I guess, is having a bachelor's 20 years ago. And maybe in 20 years, let's say having a PhD might just be the new normal thing. So this move towards higher education being more important, do you think that this trend is a good thing? Because, a lot of people on Hopstart, our show, a lot of entrepreneurs claim to think that work experience is all that matters. But I don't quite agree with that. I think that higher education is important. And would you like to shed some light on this new role that higher education is playing as a more central part of people's lives?
Yeah, I think without question it's an incredibly important area. In the United Kingdom, a number of years ago, there was a goal to have 50% of young people in the United Kingdom studying at universities, and the United Kingdom has just hit that number. And we're seeing in countries all over the world, higher education is being seen as a really important thing, not only because of the economic benefits that it brings, but also because it helps with mobility. So people being able to improve their circumstances through higher education. And we're also living in a world where jobs are changing as well, whether it's through artificial intelligence, or it's through robotics, it's through the use of technology. It just means that for a lot of different employment opportunities, there needs to be a certain level of education. And I think the other thing too is that we're increasingly in a very interconnected world.
True.
And that means that how we communicate, how we work with other people, higher education is something that transcends borders. And so in terms of gaining expertise and experience in interacting with people that come from different places, different cultures, different backgrounds, it's really pretty important.
But I think you hit the nail on the head when you said that higher education allows for a certain kind of mobility for individuals who otherwise I think were kind of stuck. But then I think it begs the question of about an affordable kind of higher education. So where does St. Andrews, figure into kind of affordability from not only international students but even maybe students from within Scotland and the UK in general?
Yeah, so within the UK has a slightly different funding structure. So in Scotland, most home students have their tuition paid for by the Scottish government. Okay. English students pay tuition fees, as do international students at our university. You're right, affordability is a huge issue, and most universities would be working very closely with whether it's different funding councils or it's different providers of student loans, or in fact even going out to the wider university community, such as alumni, and saying, could you fund scholarships, for example, that allows people that come from socioeconomic backgrounds that may not necessarily have the resources to be able to access a good education, but if somebody has the ability to be able to flourish at an institution, of course, it's the institution would like to see that made possible.
So just to conclude then, I'd like to ask you, if let's say there is somebody out there who's watching this episode who is looking for a college and St. Andrews through this interview has just sparked their interest, would you like to give them any advice for applying to a university?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, visit our website. I mean, I think everybody has to think about what is the right fit for them. St. Andrews it's one of the most selective and competitive universities in the UK, but equally, it's a place that's aspirational. It's a place that can also help people to thrive. And so if that's the sort of environment that someone's looking for, then I'd very much encourage them to have a look at our website, all the different procedures and processes for applying to the university are there. There's a lot more information about it. We have really good programs for also being able to inform people through some of our university ambassadors as well about what it's like to be there. It's certainly a place you have to be in to really understand. People that arrive at St. Andrews inevitably fall in love with it immediately, which I think is one of the reasons why it's been...
I believe that, would take your word for it. But don't go anywhere, guys, because now you know what it takes to run a place like St. Andrews. But you know what? We're going to help you try to also maybe apply there. Stay tuned.
2, 1.
Hello, I'm Julie Ramsay. I'm Director of Admissions at the University of St. Andrews in Scotland in the UK.
Hi Julie, welcome to Hopstart. Again, thank you for taking time to let us interview you.
Thank you very much for having us on Hopstart.
So as Director of Admissions, Head of Admissions, you of course have a huge say in the kind of people that just applying to St. Andrews, and you get to know the ideal candidate. So I don't want to start with just, okay, what is the ideal candidate? I think that's a bit too easy. But let's just start with, certain things that I think that you go through in your head when you're, going through applications. So what is the process like?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we receive an application, we're very much looking for people that will add something to that cohort. It's a very small institution, so every student really does count. So we're looking for students who can challenge ideas, who can show us that they'll make the absolute most of the diverse curriculum, subject choice that we have in St. Andrews. That will innovate, will bring their leadership skills in whatever discipline, and really contribute to the classroom in a vibrant way.
Okay, and could you maybe just give us a brief explanation on what the application process is like?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're based in the UK, so we're part of the Universities and Colleges Admissions Service, UCAS.com. So essentially an Indian student can apply to up to 5 universities on that one application form. Also, if they're starting to think about just St. Andrews, they can apply directly to us or through the Common App if they're also thinking about US universities. So we make it very easy for students. On the application, it's very straightforward. So we're really looking for personal details, qualifications that are already gained and qualifications that are still to be taken. Any kind of predictions that might be in there. We accept all Indian qualifications, CBSE or kind of national qualifications, as well as international baccalaureate and all the kind of regularly known. So then after that, we're looking for the student to write a personal statement. Now, the personal statement is so this is a really, really important for
because
us.
I mean, personal statements, I know as someone who's in school with a bunch of people who constantly struggle with their personal statements, any just hacks, tips that can make it a good personal statement?
Absolutely, that's a good question. So I think you need to first of all think with a clean sheet of paper and write down exactly what you want to capture. It's not a large word count, it's only one side of A4. So the knack really is to be really concise. Ensure that the first paragraph says a lot about you as a student, what your passion is for studying the academic subject that you're applying for, and apply an 80-20 rule. So try and have at least 80% of the personal statement on that academic subject that you're applying for. Show us what you've learned at school, but also show us what you don't know and what's really piqued your interest in wanting to study that subject at a higher level at university. The other 20%, try and weave in some of the other skills that you've learned through volunteering, charity work, extracurricular, sports, music. But show us the skills you've learned through that, whether it's leadership skills, team working skills, anything that really adds that colour and lets us see who you are as an individual.
I guess you're right, because but I think your job is actually exceptionally hard, because I think that just to be able to standardize, just to be able to standardize different applications across different countries with varying boards, people just learning different things in school. So what exactly is that process like? Because let's say you're trying to compare an application of India versus an application from somewhere in Europe or even somewhere else. How exactly are you weighing those two applications, considering that their education might be completely different, their real life experiences might be completely different? So what is that process?
It's fascinating, and it's very detailed. So we start off, it's very much academic led. So we have an admissions officer in every single subject that we have at St Andrews. So we understand from them what kind of cohort they want to create, and given that we're almost 50% of our students from around the world, we get a really good picture from them in terms of what kind of students have thrived before. Then it's the sort of process of comparing what is an equivalency. And that's very, very challenging. So there's so many different qualifications, but we run contextual admissions. So regardless of where a student has studied in the world, and sometimes it could be more than just India, they could have also studied in the UK already, or in the US, or they could have travelled. We look at the context, we look at very detailed way what's on offer at the high school, and from the transcript how much they've actually taken advantage of, how much they've participated. So that gives us a context. We then identify how they've done well, how well they've done in that environment, and how they're progressing, because obviously at high school the classes become harder and harder, the grading becomes tougher and tougher. So we can assess potential through looking at how well a student has done, and if there's any adverse things that have happened, obviously we need to kind of know about that. But generally we're looking for a student to get on better as they progress through high school, because that gives us a good indication of their ability to fare well. And then we're not looking for people that just tell us what we want to know. We're really looking for people to challenge
and
stand out, really put something about themselves that really give us the sense of their educational journey and how they feel an education at St Andrews would benefit them for their kind of future career, and tying it into what they want to do next. So that will also demonstrate an understanding and a level of research into St Andrews and the subject, so they can actually link through what they've done, what they don't know, what they're really interested in doing, how they contribute to their time at St Andrews, and what they want to do, how they'll benefit from that St Andrews education when they go on into the rest of their life.
Okay, that's interesting, because I guess the reason why I was asking that, and I'm glad you said about let's follow the 80-20 rule, 80% academic and 20% more about yourself, because at least over here in India, a lot is based on, let's say, your marks. So like Delhi University is based on cutoffs, and various other IITs, IIMs are based on, again, like entrance tests, while you have more of an application process. And a lot of people harp upon in that application process, like you said, what makes you stand out? So that 20% I feel like I want to talk about, that 20% of your sports, your drama, your performing arts, all of that stuff. So how do you again weigh that versus academics? Not only that, but also again the various standards internationally.
Yeah. So if I could think of a good example, it would be perhaps a student that as a more senior student in high school has helped a more junior student. Let's say you're applying for computer science, someone that has actually helped a junior student with initial coding on a volunteer capacity. So that's really showing the passion for that subject, the passion for learning, but also bringing kind of younger students with them. So that would be a good thing to demonstrate if that was indeed authentic and the case. So that would be an example of a way to weave in.
But I don't mean to cut you off, but you said, is it authentic? So is that usually something that, how do you deal with that? Because I'm sure people lie constantly on their applications. So how do you deal with that?
So I think that's when we weigh it up with the reference, which is written by the teacher or university guidance counsellor. So that is a way of kind of calibrating what's said in the personal statement and then what's written in the reference. And I think those two things have to sit comfortably side by side. I think a good application will be one where a student's given a teacher or a counsellor enough time, shared the personal statement with them, and any particular standout or authentic issues that shine in the personal statement are also reflected in the reference, and that gives us a good way of making it sort of ring true, it sounds honest, and it's also giving a different prism to what's been written by the student, not just academic.
That's great. So just to then again wrap this up, I asked Brad again, there's a person out there right now who's heard this interview, they're inspired, they definitely want to make it to St. Andrews. If you had to give advice to them in 2 lines, 3 lines, saying, hey, this is what you do, and I promise you have a somewhat of a good chance. Of course, you're not going to guarantee their admission, but any advice you'd like to give to people?
So sincerely reach out to me. We're really happy to help students the whole way through the process personally, and that rings true for me and the whole team. We've just invested in a global office here in Delhi for Indian students. So we also have resources there on just generally applying to the UK and specific St. Andrews if that's already decided upon. Don't hesitate, don't think this is way out of my grasp, I can't possibly do this. Go for it, find out more, visit us either virtually or in person or we're regularly in India, so let us know if you want to have an interview. We host those sort of 3 or 4 times a year, and just go for it. It's amazing the students that have told me once they've graduated, I'm so glad I took that risk, I'm so glad I put the application in and my dreams came true, and I found out about my admission pretty relatively quickly on, and it wasn't too stressful a process.
Okay, all right. Thanks so much for your time. Thank you. Thank you.